I buried my husband. A week later, I heard his voice calling my name from the kitchen. My name is Lena. I'm 34, and for the past year, I've been trying to rebuild my life. It all started the day my husband, Mark, left me and our daughter for another woman. I won't sugarcoat it, broke me. There's no other word for it. One morning, he was packing his bags, mumbling something about how we'd grown apart. The next, he was gone. Not even a real goodbye to his own child. He left behind the heavy silence of our once happy home, the unanswered questions, and a 3-year-old girl who kept asking when Daddy was coming back. I kept lying, soon, baby. He just needs some time. The worst part, he didn't even call. No birthdays, just ... Disappeared into his new life. I hated him. I loved him. Some nights, both at once, and then, nearly a year later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman's voice, quiet, trembling. "Are you Mark's wife?" she asked. "Ex-wife," I said sharply. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "There was an accident. He didn't make it." My mouth went dry. "What kind of accident? A crash?" "The car flipped off the road near the mountains. They haven't found the body yet, but they say he couldn't have survived that fall." I remember staring at the wall, not even blinking. My daughter was in the other room laughing at some cartoon while my heart was folding in on itself. I didn't cry. Not then. What hurt the most was how empty it felt. I thought I'd feel something more, but grief and rage don't blend well. They cancel each other out, leaving just cold. The funeral was small. Closed casket, of course. There was nothing to bury. I didn't even tell our daughter. How do you tell a child that the man who abandoned her is now gone forever? But the real story didn't begin until after the funeral. 1 week later, I was alone in the kitchen. It was past midnight. I was washing a cup in silence, no music, no phone, just me and the hum of the fridge. And that's when I heard it, clear as day, my name. Lena. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a whisper, just ... present. I spun around so fast, I dropped the cup. It shattered. And for a second, I thought it had been my imagination, but then I saw the hallway light flicker once, twice. And from the corner of the hall, my daughter's tiny voice, "Mommy, Daddy's back, isn't he?" I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought I heard something breathing. Footsteps. The low hum of a voice too far to understand. Maybe it was just my imagination, I told myself. Grief playing tricks. But it didn't feel like grief. The next morning, I asked my daughter Mia what she meant by what she said. "What did you mean last night, baby? When you said Daddy's back?" She looked at me like I was being silly. "I saw him," she said, spooning cereal into her mouth. "He came into my room. He sat on the edge of my bed like before. He said he misses you." My whole body tightened. I tried to keep my voice steady, "Sweetie. Daddy's not here anymore," she frowned. "I know, but he still comes." That day I told myself she must have dreamt it. Kids have wild imaginations, especially when they miss someone. But part of me, the small, stubborn, irrational part, remembered that voice in the kitchen, how clear it was, how real it felt. 2 days later, the light in the hallway flickered again. Same time, 11:42 p.m. I know the time because I was sitting in bed scrolling mindlessly, trying not to think. Then, I heard the front door click, soft, subtle, like someone easing it open. I froze. I wanted to believe it was nothing, a draft, a trick of sound. But my phone lit up on the nightstand, low battery, and in that light, I saw the outline of a man's jacket hanging by the door. A jacket I had packed away in a box after the funeral. The next morning, it was gone. I asked Mia if she had gotten out of bed the night before. "No," she said. "But I heard you talking to Daddy again." I didn't tell anyone what was happening. Not my sister, not my friends. They'd think I was losing it, but I started going through Mark's old things, photos, notes, old voicemails. I even called the woman who told me about the accident. Her name was Leah. She was his girlfriend, Leah. I need to ask, are you sure he's dead? Silence then, softly. "I think so." "You think so?" "There was no body, just the wreckage," the police said. "It was impossible to survive." I went to the site. There was blood, but they never found him. My stomach turned that night. I went into Mia's room while she slept. I sat on the floor beside her and just watched her breathe. The rise and fall of her chest, peaceful, safe, and then I saw it on the nightstand. A drawing, crayons, our family, stick figures, me, Mia, and Mark. But he wasn't smiling. He had no face, just a blank circle. And over his head, in Mia's handwriting, "I'm here." Days stretched into weeks, and the strange occurrences in the house became more frequent and harder to ignore. At first I told myself it was grief playing tricks on me, a mind desperate for answers and comfort. But the small details kept piling One morning, I found the photo frame of our family on the living room shelf, tilted at a strange angle. I had been sure it was perfectly straight the night before. As I fixed it, a faint scent caught my attention. Mark's cologne. It was subtle, like a memory clinging to the air. But he hadn't worn that scent since the accident. No one had been in the house except Mia and me. Mia, for her part, seemed unbothered, even comforted by all this. "Daddy's visits make me happy," she said one afternoon, running around the room with the carefree energy of a child who trusts the unseen. Sometimes she'd run to the window, waving at the empty street. "He's saying hello." She'd giggle, her face glowing with innocent joy. I wished I could share her certainty. But instead, I felt a gnawing unease late at night, when the house was swallowed by darkness and silence. I felt a presence invisible but undeniable. Sometimes I would catch myself glancing over my shoulder, convinced someone was watching me from the shadows. It was impossible to say if this was Mark's spirit or the slow unraveling of my sanity. The line between hope and fear blurred with each passing day. One evening, unable to resist the pull of my curiosity and dread, I dug through an old box in the attic that I had avoided since the funeral. Inside was a battered leather journal, Mark's handwriting scrawled across the pages, filled with urgency and raw emotion. As I flipped through, my heart tightened. The entries detailed his deepest fears, not about work or money, but something far darker. He wrote of the other side, unfinished business and cryptic warnings about a price to pay if I don't come back. The last entry made my blood run cold. "If I don't come back, I hope they'll understand. Some things are better left buried, but I have to try. For Mia, for us." Those words haunted me. What was he trying to say? What did he mean by trying? When he was already gone, that night, sleep abandoned me. Instead, I was visited by a dream, or something like a dream. Mark appeared, but not as I remembered him. His face was shadowed, his eyes distant, standing at the edge of a dense, fog-covered forest. He reached out a trembling hand toward me, silent but desperate. I woke up gasping, my sheets drenched in sweat, before I could even gather my thoughts. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number flashed on the screen. "She knows. Be careful." My hands trembled as I stared at the words. Who was she? How did this stranger know about Mia? And why was I being warned? I dialed the number back, but it was dead, unreachable. No voicemail, no trace. From that moment on, I realized I was not alone in this mystery. Someone or something was watching me, guiding me, or warning me. I didn't know if Mark's spirit was trapped between worlds, if he was reaching out from beyond, or if I was simply spiraling deeper into grief and paranoia. But the line between reality and the supernatural had blurred irrevocably, and deep down I knew this story was far from over. The days after that mysterious message felt like walking through a thick fog. Every creak in the house, every shadow flickering in the corner of my eye, set my nerves on edge. I barely slept. I barely ate. I was consumed by a mix of fear, hope, and confusion. Mia, however, remained oddly calm. She talked about the lady who sometimes comes to the house. A gentle presence, she says, protects her and watches over us. When I asked who this lady was, Mia just smiled and said, "She's a friend of Daddy." I wasn't sure whether to be comforted or terrified. A child's imagination could conjure all kinds of friends, but the timing right after the strange message felt too coincidental to ignore one night. I decided to record the sounds in Mia's room, hoping to capture something that might explain these experiences. For hours, the room was silent, save for Mia's quiet breathing. Then, just past midnight, a faint whisper broke through the silence. It was so soft, I almost doubted I'd heard it, but when I played back the recording, the words were unmistakable. "Help her? Don't let them take her." I froze. Who was speaking? And who were they? The next morning, I showed the recording to my sister Claire, hoping she'd have a rational explanation. Instead, she looked pale and whispered, "You need to be careful. Some things don't rest easy after death. Sometimes they try to take what's left behind." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Claire had always been skeptical about anything supernatural, but now she sounded genuinely worried. I realized I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I started searching online for answers, joining forums where others shared similar stories of strange visits, unexplained signs, and warnings from beyond. The more I read, the more I felt part of a hidden world I never knew existed. A world where the line between life and death was thin and fragile. One evening, as I was scrolling through a forum thread, a message caught my eye. It was from a user who claimed to have communicated with spirits and warned that dark forces might be trying to claim Mia. The user said protective rituals and keeping certain objects close could help. Desperate, I looked around the house and found an old locket that belonged to my grandmother. It was said to protect against evil spirits. I gave it to Mia to wear, hoping it would keep her safe. That night, the house was quieter. The oppressive feeling lifted slightly, but the mystery only deepened. I knew I was on the edge of something big, something that would change our lives forever, but I didn't know if I was ready for what was coming. The days that followed were a strange mixture of routine and growing dread. Every morning I woke up hoping for some clarity, some sign that the nightmare was ending. But instead, the shadows in the house seemed to stretch longer, and the silence grew heavier. I found myself watching Mia closely, afraid that whatever invisible force hovered over us might try to pull her away from me. One afternoon, as Mia played quietly in the garden, I took a moment to breathe. The sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled light on the ground, but even in this peaceful scene, my heart raced with anxiety. The locket around Mia's neck caught the sunlight, glinting like a tiny beacon. I had no idea if it was truly protecting her, but at least it was something tangible in the swirling uncertainty that evening. I sat at the kitchen table, the leather-bound journal Mark left behind lying open before me. I felt a mixture of guilt and sorrow, guilt for not having truly known him, sorrow for losing him, and confusion about what secrets he had taken with him to the grave. My phone buzzed. It was another message from the unknown number. They're closer than you think. My hands trembled. Who were they? And how could they be so close without me noticing? The next morning, I confided in Claire again. Her skepticism had softened, replaced by a determination I hadn't seen before. We need to find out what Mark was involved in, she said, pulling up old news articles and police reports on her laptop. There has to be something behind this, something that explains why your family is being targeted. We dug through every scrap of information we could find. Then, buried deep in an old newspaper archive, Claire found a series of strange reports from the town where Mark grew up, stories of unexplained disappearances, strange symbols appearing in the woods, and whispers of an ancient curse. I stared at the screen, feeling a cold wave wash over me. Could Mark's death really be connected to something this dark? That night, sleep evaded me again. The line between dreams and reality blurred as images of the forest, the fog, and Mark's desperate face haunted my mind. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. My heart stopped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it cautiously. Standing there was a woman I had never seen before, her eyes sharp, her expression serious. "I'm here to help," she said simply. She introduced herself as Evelyn. Her voice was calm, yet carried an unsettling certainty, like she knew things I didn't, and wasn't surprised by what was happening to me. I invited her in reluctantly, and we sat in the living room while Mia napped upstairs. "You've been seeing things," she said, not as a question, but a statement. "Shadows that move when they shouldn't, whispers in the night, dreams that don't feel like dreams at all." I nodded, unsure of how much to say. She seemed to already know. "I knew Mark," she continued, scanning the room like she could see traces of him. "Not well, but we were part of the same circle," I asked cautiously. "People who believe, or rather, people who know that the veil between life and death is thin in some places, and that some people, whether by fate or blood, are closer to that veil than others." She looked at me, and Mia, she's one of them. The words felt like a punch to the chest. I shook my head. "She's just a child. She doesn't even understand what's happening." Evelyn leaned forward. "That's exactly why she's in danger. Children like her attract attention from things that have forgotten what it means to be human." I wanted to scream, to deny everything, but I couldn't. Deep down, I already felt it. Mia had always been. "What does this have to do with Mark?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She paused. "Mark tried to break the connection. He got involved with people who promised they could protect Mia, but they weren't what they seemed. They used him. Then they tried to use Mia. Is that why he died?" Evelyn looked down. "I don't think Mark is dead. Because he broke the rules." Everything in me screamed to deny it, but too much had already happened. The message, the whispers, the dreams. "What do I do?" I asked. Evelyn stood. "You protect her. You never leave her side. And whatever you do," she reached into her coat and handed me a folded piece of paper covered in strange symbols. "Don't let her step into the shadows alone." I took the paper with trembling hands. "What are these?" I asked. "Wards," she said. "They won't stop everything, but they'll slow it down." And then she was gone, disappearing into the night like a ghost herself. I locked the door behind her, every nerve in my body buzzing with fear. I crept upstairs to check on Mia. She was still asleep, curled up peacefully beneath her blanket, the silver locket glinting against her skin. I sat beside her bed and watched her breathe. Whatever was coming for us, I would fight it, even if it meant going into the dark to find Mark, even if it meant giving everything I had. That night, the wind howled like it hadn't in years. Trees bent outside our windows, shadows spilled into corners they didn't belong. I felt the pressure in the house shift like something ancient had turned its gaze on us. I lit every candle Evelyn told me to use. Drew the wards on every window and door. I even taped the folded charm she gave me under Mia's bed. She woke in the middle of the night, just before 3 a.m., eyes wide and unfocused. "He's close," she whispered, "but he's not alone." Before I could speak, the hallway lights flickered and died. The silence that followed was so absolute it felt like time itself had stopped. Then, a sound I hadn't heard in months, Mark's voice, faint, calling my name from downstairs. I froze. "Don't go," Mia said, clutching my arm. "They want you to follow." But I had to know. Grabbing the flashlight, I crept down the stairs, heart in my throat. Each step felt heavier than the last, like the house was pulling me backward. At the bottom of the stairs, I stopped. There he was, Mark Dot, standing in the living room just as I remembered him, coat slightly unbuttoned, hair messy, eyes full of emotion, but wrong too. Still, too perfect. He raised a hand slowly. "You found the journal," he said. "You know what I did?" My voice cracked. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" His expression flickered, and suddenly his smile seemed strained. "Because if I told you, they'd have come for her sooner." My stomach turned. "You mean Mia?" He nodded. "She's the key. They need her to open the door." I stopped them once, but now the seal is weakening. Evelyn slowed them down, but that won't last. "You need to leave now." Tears welled up. "Come with us. We can figure it out." "I'm not really here," he interrupted, voice suddenly distant. "They're using me to lure you. Don't trust the light." And then he shattered. Not exploded, not vanished, just folded inward like a paper collapsing into nothing. The flashlight flickered violently. Behind me, I heard Mia scream. I raced upstairs. She was standing at the wall, hand outstretched, facing the mirror. No, not a mirror anymore. A surface rippling like water, glowing with cold, bluish light. "She's coming through," Mia whispered. I didn't ask who. I ran to her, grabbed her hand and pulled her away, just as a pale hand emerged from the surface, fingers too long. Nails cracked and blackened. The moment we broke contact with the mirror, the room went silent. I turned. The mirror was just glass again. My reflection stared back at me, wild, shaking, terrified. Mia looked at me with calm, ancient eyes I didn't recognize. "She's not gone. She'll try again." I held her close. "We won't let her. It's been 2 weeks since that night." Evelyn disappeared. The number she gave me doesn't work. The words she taught me, I redraw every day. Mark hasn't come back, not even in dreams. Sometimes I wonder if I imagined it all. But then Mia says things like, "Daddy says the shadows are angry," or leaves little drawings of a woman with no eyes standing in our hallway. We've started over new city, new names, but the air still feels heavy sometimes, and I still wake at 3 a.m. without knowing why. One night, I opened the closet and found Mark's coat, the same one he wore that last night, folded neatly on the floor. We'd never unpacked it, so I keep the light on. I keep Mia close, and I never, ever trust the reflections.